going to go ahead and go into the panel discussion. So if all of our presenters will kind of come back, turn your cameras on, I'm going to kind of go through these questions. I may have to go kind of in order just so I can timestamp these to know who they go to. So Bono, we're going to go backwards and just start with you since you just finished. Is there a recommended surface area with the totes to best characterize the low rate dosage?
Um, for the tote boxes, the ones that you saw in that picture and the ones that we have constantly used is the one that you get from Walmart. We bought them for those 18-gallon tote boxes. Those work fine. I think they have about 28 inches of the width and stuff. So, but you can use that as a reference and go from there. But yeah, you can test different options. The 18-gallon tote boxes at Walmart is perfect for us.
All right, awesome. Still for you, when doing low rate applications, does that reduce the chance of the target pest becoming immune to the product?
Now, so just because it's a low rate application does not mean that you're actually under applying below the label. That is the important thing to keep in mind. If you're actually applying below what the label is suggesting, that's where issues crop up when you are actually doing so resistance and other stuff because you're exposing them. And also the type of the product also matters. So if it is VTI, then that's not an issue. So it depends on the product that you're applying, and most of it, what I'm suggesting is low rate application by the label. I'm not saying just low rate applied besides the label. So if the label says so, then you're not actually applying below that you're going to be selecting something.
Awesome, thank you. We're gonna move on to Mark Smith. We have one here. Were those trampolines that you use for swath characterization made by you folks in-house, or are they commercially available product that you can purchase or maybe modify?
Well, we did have, when we purchased the system in 1993, they did a similar trampoline was included in that. We have since gone through multiple versions of that, same sizing and everything like that, but they do wear out over time. They should be available through WRK in some form, but yeah, for the most part, we have kind of had them redone by a private fabric manufacturer and that to rebuild them for us. So
great, thanks. Got another one here for you. What is the percentage of active ingredient of I think it's Alticid for applications at 2.5 pounds an acre, which received 90% emergence inhibition?
well, the amount of methoprene in the product for Alticid pellets is 4.25%. I don't have the calculations. If she's looking for some more detailed information on the actual amount, I don't know exactly what she's looking for there, but the label amount is 4.25%.
All right, great. Thanks. I'm going to keep on moving here. I'm kind of using my timestamp to see who these belong to. So Mark, I think you're still on. Do you have thresholds set for adult mosquito control intervention in the case of disease outbreak? If so, have you ever exceeded them with your extensive larval control problem?
Well, fortunately, we don't have a lot of disease or vector activity in our area. We do have some eastern equine and some Jamestown Canyon, but I guess if we looked at a disease outbreak, we definitely look at our thresholds, and we do target our Culex species, which are our vectors in our area, and that they do have a little lower threshold for treatment in our area. So when we do find some of those Culex species in that, we do address them accordingly. So.
Okay. Awesome. I got definitely one more directed right at you. How do you rotate your 10% of sites to evaluate larval control?
Well, I guess to look at that, the same sites don't always get wet in every rain. We cover such a large area, so we're constantly looking at different sites all the time by which region of our 7 counties got wet. Our staff will try to target of the treatments that were made, 10% of those. So it isn't just a continual same site evaluation type of process. It's kind of evolving and rolling as weather conditions and that roll through our Twin Cities area.
Okay. We have a question about your colored blanks. Did you guys make those colors yourself, or did someone provide them to you?
We have asked some of the manufacturers in that to provide those to us. Sometimes that's not always easy to do, create a blank colored product in their manufacturing processes and that. So some of the manufacturers have provided them. Some we've done ourselves. We use a phosphorescent dye on some of them and mix that just prior to putting them in the hoppers and that to be able to distinguish those two hoppers. And one thing with that phosphorescent dye, it's pretty cool because you'll put it into one of the hoppers and you'll have like a pink streak going across the sky as they're applying them, and that's a little bit of an air show there too.
Awesome. All right. For the moment, you're off the hook, but we got Nick, I think a couple directed at you. We have a question that came in right when you were talking about your surveillance tools. And we have a question from Virginia that asks if those devices are legal in Virginia. I'm not sure if you'll know that, but we'll pose it to you anyway.
If you're referring to the mosquito traps, I couldn't speak to the legal status of those traps in Virginia. I certainly haven't heard that they're illegal, but wouldn't advise any legal advice one way or the other there. I can only speak to our county operations in New Jersey.
All right, great. This is coming in your time frame, so I'm going to go ahead and read it, but if it is for someone else, help me out here. I'm pretty sure, okay. I'm pretty sure it helps you all combat a large amount of adults, especially since you are quite limited about the areas that can be treated. What products do you use? And we switch a lot from oils to water depending on specific species. So just what kind of products do you use in some of those limited areas?
So speaking to Mercer County, we use a variety of different products, mostly water dispersible biopesticides, your BTI, your Spiricus. We'll use methoprene, we'll use spinosad where we can. And I think most importantly there, I would just highlight that we like to rotate those products, of course, in the interest of insecticide resistance. And as far as like monomolecular films or surface oils, that's only as needed if we have an emergent situation. Typically, we address those things before that occurs.
Okay. Awesome. I think I have one for Mike. It's about your time frame. When spraying 12AS from the 206, what is your application rate of mix?
Oh, it's 32 ounces an acre straight. Not getting diluted.
All right. That was definitely, you knew that one. All right, let's see what else, if we have another one. Do we have Dr. Tiemann on the line? Nope. Okay, we'll see.
No, I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. So we do have a few questions for you, if you're ready.
I am.
Awesome. All right. Have you observed any resistance in Spiricus in Tarsalis?
So my lab has only done work with pyrethroids. We've only looked at adulticides. So I don't have the answer to that.
I'll pick up the question there, Leanne.
Please.
So far there's no reports out there for Tarsalis and Sphericus resistance out there. A good person to contact, of course, would be Stephen Sue. He's done a lot of work with the BTI and B Sphericus resistance and all other types of resistance. But so far I have not seen any publications specifically for Tarsalis and Sphericus resistance.
They also asked the same question about restruans.
Same thing, restruans also not common. Restruans are more often in the containers. And asparagus, people don't often put them in containers, mainly because Aedes mosquitoes are not very susceptible to asparagus. You need to put a large amount for asparagus to be effective against Aedes mosquitoes. And for that reason, they don't come into contact with that very often. So far, there are no reports specifically for Ristuans that I know of.
All right, great. We have another one here for you. It is, where are your susceptible populations from? And what generation are they if they're lab reared?
Yeah, so they are, so both colonies that I use. So I know my talk was recorded this morning, or was a recording from this morning, but depending on the day, we use different colonies because Tarsalis colonies are infamously difficult to rear. And so finding mosquitoes to use on any given day is pretty tough. So we had different, they came from different places. Like we had some that came from UC Davis, we had some came from local vector control districts, et cetera. Historically, where they started, the BFS colony, that stands for Bakersfield Field Station. It's a colony that was started, I'm not sure I could give you a year, but decades ago, collected from Central California, from the Bakersfield area. It's been maintained by the CDC and others for many generations. Same for the KNWR, that stands for Kern National Wildlife Refuge. It's a separate colony, but also collected from that Central California Bakersfield area. So they have been in colony for quite some time. I do not know the exact generation number, but it's been a while. We actually tried this last year to find susceptible for the last 3 years, give or take, to find susceptible wild populations to try to start a new colony. And we've had so much resistance in our area, we haven't had any luck. So that's kind of where we stand at the moment.
Another shout out, if you have any, she's looking, so send them her way.
I'm looking, though. You'll have to be on the West Coast or in the Western US to help me.
Okay. All right. So one other question. Theoretically, would an insect population be expected to develop resistance more quickly when using a pyrethroid product without a PBO than with the PBO?
So the PBO helps combat the enzymatic resistance, right? So I'm trying to think if you're maybe specifically talking about KDR mutations, if it would affect that or not. The idea would be that the PBO would keep the mosquitoes' oxidases from breaking down the pyrethroid. In that way, it may lower the dose that the mosquito's getting. I don't know exactly what to say in terms of, so the PBO directly combats the enzymatic resistance. I'm not sure how to answer that in terms of whether it would affect KDR coming into a population. So the deal with target site mutations is that they're random mutations that happen, but then they have this evolutionary advantage, right? That those individuals that have that random DNA mutation survive, so then they pass that mutation on. So it wouldn't necessarily keep the mutations from popping up in the population.
Okay. Awesome. I'm going to have one more specific for you, and then we'll go and move on here a little bit. When Tarsalis are exposed to the permethrin plus PBO, was it first exposed to a bottle coated with only PBO and then exposed to the bottle coated with permethrin, or was it a PBO mix, permethrin mix?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I know that, or at least I think still CDC guidelines say to do the PBO exposure first and then go into the permethrin bottle. That's actually not what we did for a couple of reasons. First of all, we were limited in time, right? So those of you who have done bottle bioassays know they already take a long period of time. So the pre-exposure we weren't able to do, but we also came to the conclusion to put them both in the bottle because that, to the districts that I was working with, seemed like a more realistic way that the products actually sprayed. So we didn't do them as separate exposures. The PBO and the permethrin were in the bottle together.
Great, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mark Clifton, we're gonna send one your way. How much labor savings compared to backpack treatments using the Buffalo turbine. Are you treating 6 acres a minute with the Buffalo turbine?
Yeah, we could treat 6 acres in a minute, no problem. And that would take, hours or even a day with a team of 2 people with a backpack, depending on how thick the brush is. So we've found a dramatic savings. Some places that would take 2 days to get through, we can do in a morning. Depends on the wind. The wind has to be going the right direction. Our area is crisscrossed by lots of roads and paved paths. So we're lucky in that regard that we can use the wind to our advantage. Not everywhere would be able to do that, especially in more rural places. It might be more difficult.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Mark Smith, we have one directed to you. Are you treating your cochleatidia in the spring or in the fall? And if in the spring, have you ever tried the fall?
We've been doing cochleatidia perturbant treatments in the fall for probably about 6 years now. We use Vectalex product in the fall. We do a lot of surveying early in the year so we can get some of those treatments done. Being up in Minnesota and that, our temperatures start to drop after a while, and we target our cochleatidia in the fall before the water temperatures turn 50 degrees or lower. We think that the activity of those insects really starts to drop off as the temperatures cool down, and our success rate for a product that they have to ingest like Vectalex is that we want to get it in the water when they're still really actively feeding and trying to build those stores for winter. We also do treatments for perturbans in the spring. We use Vectalex in the fall, and we use a methoprene in the springtime. We'll try to get all those treatments done in late May, early June, so we can have that coverage of that 30-day duration of that product throughout their whole time that they are emerging.
Great. Thank you for that. All right, Dr. Tiemann, we're going to pull you in here again. Would you expect mosquito resistance to pyrethroids like permethrin to also be resistant to natural pyrethrum?
So this isn't an 100% answer because I haven't tested it, but yes, particularly for the KDR mutation, I would expect a similar effect, whether it's a synthesized pyrethroid or a natural pyrethrin. And then it's my understanding from vector control partners that often if you're spraying a natural pyrethrin, you can't use the PBO, right? If it needs to be in an organic field or something like that. So that also then takes away sort of that synergist effect of the PBO.
Awesome. Mike, we have one here for you. It's kind of a follow-up, similar to the first one. But for your 12AS, what was the application rate? You did say neat. And what was the droplet size, if you know?
Oh, the droplet size I am not sure on, but again, it was 32 ounces an acre, undiluted.
All right, great. We have a question posed to all of the presenters, so we'll kind of go around and throw it at all of you. Do you know any researchers who work on biology and ecology of spring woodland 80 species, such as vexins or Canadinus? Sorry about that one. Anybody out there familiar with that? I see head shaking, but nobody's chiming in. All right. Yes, it's hard to get details on these species, and that's why everybody's shaking their head no. So sorry we couldn't be more helpful, but if anybody has that information, let us know. All right, let's see what else we have here. I'm just going to go maybe 2 more minutes. We still have a lot of questions. Mark Smith, we have one directed at you. What is the program that you use for your field inspectors to add data and information in the field?
Well, it's a program that we actually created ourselves, and that we were kind of on the forefront of the database management when a lot of these programs came in, and it got to a point where it was hard to fit a commercially available program into what we already had established. So Dr. Nancy Reed at our office, and that does a lot of our database work. She works with a company called Houston Engineering to help develop our programs and that, and we also try to utilize a lot of open source type products and that in wherever we can to for our database work there.
Awesome. I'm going to aim this one towards Peter Brake and anybody with drones, but this is a drone question about what type of canopy penetration are you experiencing with your drone applications, with granular larvicide, that is?
Well, we have seen pretty good penetration with the material through the canopy. We haven't gone back into the field and have physically checked the material on all of our blocks, but we do go back every now and then to verify both with pre and post dip. So we get good penetration with our material from drones.
Any other drone people out there want to jump in? All right. Well, there are still quite a few questions, but unfortunately I am running out of time and I want to make sure that I have a moment to close out. So if we didn't get to your question, we apologize. We will continue to kind of work through them. Feel free to send them to any of the presenters. Like I mentioned a couple times before, their presentations will be available on our webpage after the event. Many of them have their contact information. So if there's a question that we didn't get to that you really want to know the answer to, please reach out to them or to one of us and we will get you that information as quickly as we can. Okay, I'm going to quickly go through a few closing things.